What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Believers in Business Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Adamson, and I got with me my guy, my co-pilot, Praise. And today we're going to talk to you guys about something that's been a big issue in society today. Not only in society, but in business in society. And that's the cost of ignorance. You know, I've been coined, at least for the last 5 or 6 years, saying that ignorance is expensive and we can't afford it, right? And I think for the longest time, ignorance had like a negative connotation to it. But the truth is, ignorance just means the absence of truth and knowledge in a particular area of your life and in your business. And so most of us are consciously aware of what we know. Some of us are aware of what we don't know. But the most expensive area of our life is the area that we don't know what we don't know. That will be called ignorance. And so I'm excited to get in this conversation, and hopefully at the end of it, you figure out how to make some more money in your business, okay? And if you do so, all I ask is that you just let us know. Leave a comment, leave a review if you're listening to audio, or leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. P, what's up, bro? I'm happy to be back with you, man.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. And yeah, this topic actually hit home for me, if I'm being honest, because I realized a lot of things that I wasn't confident in, or a lot of things that I knew I should have acted on. I didn't do it because I didn't know how to. So I was like, I was listening to a teaching, and the guy said, ignorance will always cost you. Well, ignorance is what will hold you back from being excellent. And I realized I'm not excellent in some areas because I'm ignorant in those areas. So I was like, yeah, I know B got a lot of gems on ignorance. So I was like, let's do it. I'm super excited to have this conversation, and I know it's going to set a lot of people free because some people think it's a strategy, but it's really your ignorance. So I think this is going to be a great conversation for them. So yeah, man, let's dive right into it.
Do it.
Ready?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So what are the most common areas where entrepreneurs are ignorant in? Where have you seen, the areas where entrepreneurs are most ignorant in?
One of the biggest challenges I see for entrepreneurs is that they're so in love with what they do know, they're blinded by what they don't. And I get it. Like, you're supposed to lean into your strengths, right? Play to your strengths, not your weaknesses. But at some point, you got to look at your productivity and say, I've plateaued for some reason, right? As a matter of fact, it was in our Believers in Business community. Somebody had made a comment in there earlier today, and she was talking about the fact that she feel like her content isn't converting right now. Okay. But she's measuring the performance of her content against what used to happen in 2022. It's not incorrect, but it is incomplete though, right? Because what it takes today with the algorithm, with AI, with attention span, with all the things, there's a myriad of factors that are different today that differ from what was working in 2022 for another set of reasons. And if you find yourself falling in love with what you think you know or what you used to know, then it's disallowing you to learn the things that you need to know in this new season to continue to help push your business forward. So she's now plateauing, not because she don't have the ability, but because she's ignorant in the area of what it takes today versus what it took in yesteryear. Does that make sense? So yeah, I think, I use her as example, but she's really an example for 60, 70% of entrepreneurs out there that we get so in love. That's why when you look at, they call this like the silver tsunami, right? Where a lot of like my parents' age, people in their 70s, the baby boomers, 70s, 80s, they're selling off their businesses. Well, you have people like Cody Sanchez that talks a lot about buying boring businesses. So what she does is she goes and buys these like plumbing businesses that's doing $1 million or $2 million a year, but they still write invoices on the back of a napkin. They so old school and so archaic in their approach that she has figured out how to take today's modern techniques and systems, attach that to their old book of business, and 3, 4, 5x the revenue in these companies, and then increase the EBITDA, which is the profit, and then sell them off, right? At a 5 to 10x multiple to a private equity firm. So what's my point? My point is these baby boomers, many of them think their businesses suck, but it's not that their businesses suck. Their approach to their business suck because they still stuck in 30 years ago when they started it. Y'all, you don't need to send no email. You go over there, you talk to John in person, you take him out for a cup of coffee, you take him his donuts, and it's not wrong, but it's not the most efficient based on the tools that we have today. And, you know, you'll see history constantly repeat itself for many business owners, but it's also no secret as to why I think it's 50% of businesses fail in year one, right? 80% by year five, because they were so in love with the skill, the passion, the desire to start the thing that they didn't make investments early enough to go get help in the areas where they were ignorant to be able to sustain and scale the thing. That's what happens.
No, that's good. That's really good. And I love the examples you use. So my next question is, why is ignorance so dangerous for business owners, especially believers, right? Because, you know, the enemy operates in the arena of ignorance. So why is it so dangerous for business owners to just stay ignorant, especially, you know, believers? Because we are talking to believers in business. So
yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? The enemy is the author of confusion. So wherever there's ignorance, there's going to be abundance of confusion, not clarity. Mm. And so, you know, when the scripture talks about how basically the enemy attacks us in our most vulnerable places, which is where we're ignorant at. And so we can be doing a lot of things. And, you know, one of my biggest pet peeves, as you probably know, is people run around hopped up on passion and then they go out and build these businesses on the foundation of ignorance and then throw Jesus glitter on us and say, God told me to go do it. But if we know anything about God, we know that he's a God of details. We say the devil is in the details, but God is in the details, right? If you don't believe that, just look at the Old Testament. Why is there Chronicles? Right? Why is there this begat this, begat this, begat this, begat this? Why is it 3,200 cubic meters of this and 320 yards of, like, why did he put all that in there? It wasn't for us to go get a measuring tape. It's because he's reminding us that he's a God of details. So as though we should also be, right? Luke 14:28, suppose one of you want to go out and build a tower. Won't you first sit down and count the costs? Because if you begin to build and you run out of money before the foundation is laid, people will look at you and ridicule you and call you a fool. So that's a principle, right? Now, in context, he was talking to the disciples about what it will cost them to follow him. But he also meant that in just to what it said, right? Like if you want to build something, you need to first sit down and count the cost, right? God blesses decency and order. He ordered the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. Order, details, right? So when we don't do that, then we're not building it on a godly foundation. We're building it on a worldly foundation. And as the text tells us, all it takes is a good gust of wind and a good storm to come in and blow that thing down because it was built on sand and not rock. And that's the danger for the believer, because if as a believer, while yes, sowing and reaping is a worldly principle, not just a biblical principle, right? If you put seed in the ground, you will reap a harvest. Ask any farmer, okay? But as believers, we know that, yes, while that same concept be true for us, that our God is in the multiplication business. So if we're doing it the way we're supposed to be doing it, then we should be having the immeasurably more than we can ask, think, or imagine as a result of doing it his way. So we miss out on a significant blessing by constantly asking God to put duct tape around this ugly business we done built, instead of for him to breathe on it, because we'd have been habitual seed sowers, scattered our seed abundantly in rows, and all we need for him to do is bring the rain. But the problem is that we miss one principle way up front on this thing. Oftentimes as believers, we cheat. We cheat. We want to build everything with the least, but then we want God to do the most. We don't want to invest in our business. We want to invest in ourselves. We cheat. We scarcity minded, and then we be like, "But I'm gonna be a millionaire." How? Those who sow sparingly shall also reap what? Sparingly. Those who sow generously shall also reap what? Generously. So how is you being cheap gonna get you abundance? It don't. That's what I mean. Like, we make the text so cute and fairy tale-ish. It's like it's a principle. So when we don't make the proper investments up front to get the proper intellect, to get the proper infrastructure, we're left with a half put together situation. And then we praying for miracles every day. When God, like, you would need a miracle if you just laid the foundation right to begin with. You wouldn't need a miracle if you Proverbs 15:22 and operated in an aspect of many plans fail because of lack of counsel, but with multiple advisors, they succeed. But you ain't went and sought no wise counsel. You talking to your homegirl. You talking to your homeboy. You talking to your coworker at work. You talking to everybody that ain't never did what you trying to accomplish. And because they make you feel good or bad as a result of sharing with them and whatever they share with you, you think that's wise counsel. Because those are the people that make you feel most comfortable, as opposed to going to find some people that's going to tell you the things that are necessary, not necessarily the things that are nice.
That was heavy. That was so heavy. Those who reap sparingly, those who sow sparingly will reap sparingly, man. And too many believers are praying for miracles. You're right. You are absolutely right about that. So now, what role does mentorship and community play in overcoming ignorance? Because you were just talking about investing into the intellect and knowledge. And, I can speak to the truth of that. And I told you this offline, that you've saved me years of pain. You've saved me years of work. You've saved me years of struggle. Like, right now, I honestly believe in my life, like, this is the best place I've been at, because it was one thing to hear the word, right? To hear what you say. It's another thing now to do it. And you've saved me years of just the pain of learning by experience. So can you just talk about, like, what role does mentorship and community play in overcoming ignorance?
Well, man, I got so much to say on this one.
Talk about it.
The first thing I'll start with is this, right? So again, Proverbs 15:22, many plans fail because of lack of counsel, but with multiple advisors, they succeed. So my ability to be successful is predicated on who I surround myself with and who I ask questions to, right? What happens is, and you just see this in God, and you see this in Jesus's coaching model. God was pouring into him. He was pouring into the disciples. So we should always have somebody that we're yielded to, and we should have others that's yielded to us. I'm pouring into you in this season, and I always keep somebody pouring into me. That's just a healthy ecosystem of what works. Not because I said so, it's because that's what Jesus did. He got downloads from heaven. He downloaded into the disciples. That's a coaching model. So I need to always be submitted to some level of authority and wise counsel that could then, as I'm using these things to help benefit my life, that I need to be giving it to others to help benefit theirs. Okay. The other part is, if, again, in Luke 14:28, Jesus is telling the disciples, won't you first sit down and count the costs? So we'll make the investment even when we don't have the investment to go to college, to learn curriculum, to pay a professor who oftentimes isn't even a practitioner in our field, to teach us enough information for us to go and position ourselves to get a better job than somebody walking in off the street. And I'm not saying that's completely flawed, right? I'm not saying that's incorrect, but it is incomplete because I've leveraged money to pay an institution to teach me how to get a limitation called a job, because I'm limited to what they can pay me. Like, I can't go in there and be like, you know what? I thought about it last night. This $100,000 ain't working out for me. I really need like 175, 200. Can y'all just make that adjustment to my next paycheck? Like, y'all know I'm good for it. You can't. But if you leverage money to pay a coach who teaches you how to create limitless opportunities for yourself, not limitations, then if you had a choice, which one make more sense? To leverage money to pay somebody to teach you how to get a limitation, or to leverage money to pay somebody to teach you how to have limitless possibilities? Like, which one would you do?
Oh, I'm doing limitless every time.
100%, right? So what happens is, because the social status quo is leverage the money to pay the institution to teach you how to get a limitation, most people just stop there. Rich and wealthy people, like myself and others, we understand that model is not incorrect, but it's incomplete, because if I'm going to leverage money to pay somebody it better be to position me with a skill set that then gives me limitless opportunity. So going back to that same example, let's just say I'm in my business and I'm stuck at 100,000 and I'm like, no, I want to double that. Like I want to make 200 grand this year. Bro, I ain't got to go ask for permission. I ain't got to go talk to nobody. As a matter of fact, when we do the thing that we're talking about right now, which is go out and get coaching and consulting, believe it or not, I ain't even got to work harder. As a matter of fact, the more money you make is a result of working higher, not harder. This is how our coaching businesses are set up to where we could do 7 events a year and make 7 figures a year. We can do an event every other month, essentially, and make 7 figures a year and work 100 days a year. And not just us, but now because we've figured out how to do that, we got clients that do the exact same thing. Well, where did that come from? Because I had to pay somebody to learn how to do it. I got my first mentor in 2016 in real estate. That decision has fundamentally changed my life forever. Because before then, I was ignorant. I didn't even know that mentorship existed. Whenever I used to hear seminar growing up where I grew up in my context, I just thought all of that was network marketing. I didn't know that they had like coaches. You know what I mean? I thought it was always like a pyramid thing. So I used to be turned off by that conversation because I was ignorant. Again, I was accepting what I understood to be true as opposed to finding out the truth. By God's grace, I finally went and checked this thing out that I heard about on the radio, on the infomercial, and walking in those doors and seeing like there's a whole nother world out here that was totally juxtaposed my normal context with my friends, family, all the rest of it. My definition of what I thought was getting rich was a joke, comparatively speaking, to when I got in the room. But guess what? When you grow up on the west side of Detroit in an 800 square foot bungalow to blue collar parents, then you got to pay to get in rooms because you ain't going to just come across people that's winning at that kind of level. And that taught me a very valuable lesson. If you want to skip the line, you got to pay to get in the room. And ever since 2016, bro, I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my personal development because in the parable of the talents, you know, master goes out on a long trip. He leaves his 3 servants in charge. To one he gave 5, to one he gave 2, to one he gave 1 bag of money. And his expectation was in his absence that they will go out and do something with it. He didn't know to what extent. And so he come back from the trip and the one that had 5 had doubled it into 10 by starting a business. The one that had 2 had made some investments and got a return on investment and doubled it to 4. The one that had 1 buried theirs. Okay. That's not even an important part of the story that I want to talk about, though. The most important part of that text to me was that it said that God blessed each of them according to their ability. Not who he liked the most, not who he favored the most, according to their ability. So that's a very clear indicator to me. Don't get mad at the next man because he got 100 million and you got 1,000. God blessing him according to his or her ability. So guess what? If I want more, I have to become more. So if I understand that, then what better investment could there ever be made than in me becoming more? Tell me one. If God showed us the template is that I'm blessing you according to your ability, then what do you think your number one investment should be in life to increase your ability? Increase your ability. So this is why I'm always seated at someone's feet in every season, because that's the only way I'm going to become more. I got to watch the right podcasts. I got to listen to the right audiobooks. I got to pay for the right mentorship. I told you this, like every day I'm learning, bro. I can't wait to go smoke a cigar and learn today. Like every day I'm learning something. I got to be learning something because if I want to become more, if I want to have more, I got to become more. Not because I said so, because that's what he showed me.
Right.
So for people to think that they're going to figure it out on their own, it's just foolish. Like there's nothing noble about that. And even if you were gifted enough to do so, how much better could you be if you actually invested in yourself?
Talk about it.
So we got to stop asking God for stuff that we haven't prepared ourselves for. And part of preparing yourself for it is making the investments in yourself to find people smarter than you and ahead of you to give you the knowledge that you need so that you can have more.
1000%. A few things that I want you to touch on and that I kind of want to touch on as well. One, you said this the other day in our coaching call that rocked my world. You were like, you learn so much. Sometimes you forget what you learn. That is one of the best things I've probably ever heard someone say, because it's like, I'm gaining so much knowledge. I don't even know how much knowledge I truly have. That's a compliment, right? And then another thing is, as you were just talking about the talents, and the other day I looked up the definition of what blessing actually is, right? Because in the church, when we don't know what the terms actually mean. So when the pastor or somebody's saying God's going to bless you, we immediately think it is a materialistic thing.
Fact.
Immediately.
Fact.
So I was like, okay, God, I don't want to continue to live in this ignorance of thinking that your blessing only comes through a physical thing. I was tired of it, because I'm like, okay, do I really know what the definition is? So I went to go look at the definition, and it said the capacity to experience and enjoy God's goodness and favor on your life. And then it went into a little deeper, saying that God will bless you to bless others. So the only way to get a blessing is to be one, right? So even just thinking about how you've been to me in my life, and I prayed for God to bless me, but I didn't limit his blessing. I didn't limit the way to experience his goodness. Because you came in on two legs. You didn't come in a stack of $100 million.
Come on now.
Let's talk about it, right?
Now.
And I had to really understand that the blessing was in the well that you've been making sure you're getting filled by the one whose feet you've been at, right? So I just feel like believers, we don't do enough research. Like, I've been in the season where even when you said that, it prompted me to, like, what do I not know? Like, what is suffering in my life because I don't know? Like, and I just really started doing research and studying more terms and understanding real things. So now when I'm talking to God, I'm not expecting him to bless me with money. When I say bless me, I'm expecting him to bless me more capacity and the ability to do the thing he wants to do. Because in Genesis 1:28, he says, and God blessed them. So he just gave them the capacity to do the thing. And yeah, because I realized with you walking into my life, bro, you're a blessing. You didn't hand me $1 million. You gave me the wisdom that helped you get $1 million, right? But believers don't want that. Even with offering, they're like, I'm not investing. I'm not paying for that. It's like, God deserves the best. Excellency is how we worship him, right? But it's like, we don't want to do that. We want the best for ourselves, but we don't want to give the best to God. So you just touched on so many just different things. And I really pray the believers that listen to us and the non-believers that listen to this understand the importance of not living in ignorance. And I wanted to ask you, can you share a time in your journey where ignorance might have cost you something, and what did you learn from it?
Oh yeah, ignorance has cost me a lot, bro. So here's the other interesting part about ignorance. That the reason why I say action is the only thing that brings you clarity is because you're ignorant to future outcomes.
Right.
So the only thing that you can do is prepare yourself enough to hedge against the known ignorance. There's still going to be unknown ignorance that's inherent to the process of execution and growing, right?
Right.
You just hope that by virtue of you getting enough of the right information up front, that you should mitigate how bad the exposure is on the other side of growing through the new ignorance, if that makes sense.
Right.
So that being said, I mean, bro, I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in everything that I've done, right? When I was in real estate, although I had a mentor, once I got good at the part they showed me, when I started scaling, I didn't know what I didn't know still, right? This part working, so then let's introduce a new part. And the problem sometimes with scaling is that it happens so fast.
Right.
And you're talking about having hundreds of thousands, yet millions of dollars committed to this process at this period of time, right? And so, make a long story short, my point is that I didn't know what I didn't know about scaling. And the truth is, I was also hard-headed during that season because people were telling me to slow down, but it was the thing I was doing was working. So I'm like, why would I slow down? Like I should be leaning into the curve right now, right? But as a result, I mean, it ended in a $500,000 loss. But because I was so aggressive, I learned so much. I learned in a 2-year period what would have taken some 15, 20 years to learn. So what did that do? That put me in position to fix those problems faster, and then now have a complete picture of what the before and after looks like, to where then I was able to start helping other people not do what I did. So Romans 8:28 says that all things are working together for our good. He meant all things. That's why he said all. He didn't say some and kind of, to my discretion. He said all things are working together for the good of those that love the Lord and been called according to his purpose. And it's true. Like it took for me to lose $500,000 to make millions and to help others do the same. Because I wasn't pontificating. I wasn't talking to them about theory. I was talking about what I lived. It's painful, albeit, but I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Even in our coaching and consulting business. To me, what qualifies you to be able to help others is that you've been through the fire. The level of the degree of the fire is to the individual. For me, I normally lose big though. When I lose, I don't lose a lot, but when I lose big because I take big risks. And as I sit here at 42 now, and I think of all that I've accomplished, which is still the tip of the iceberg to me, but I attribute it to how big I lost at moments in my life. About every 7 to 10 years, it seemed like I just took another big loss, even going back to when I was in the streets, right? But every time I came back better and stronger from it. And every time I was put in a position to be able to help others from it. So even in our coaching and consulting business, I was so ignorant to the fact that I went and got a real estate mentor. But then when I started my coaching and consulting business in 2018, I just started helping people because I had a heart to help and I had a gift to teach. But I didn't have the infrastructure of a coaching business. So I didn't have like key performance indicators. I didn't have a marketing system. We were just organically guerrilla marketing, making millions of dollars. So it was like when I started to have to pull these other levers and hire a marketing team and all the things, it was the blind leading the blind, right? Blind on my part because I didn't know how to hold them accountable. Blind on their part because they're a marketing agency, not a coaching aficionado. So what happens is a marketing company, because they've had success in a specific niche with a specific client, will then take that same thing and just say, you do this, just change out the words. Well, it's a lot of other nuance to why things work for one client versus other. Their audience, their avatar, all the things. I don't know all this. So as a result, bro, I'm going through this carousel of marketing companies. I'm spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on marketing and advertising that ain't performing. I lose like $250,000. But because of that, guess what? Not the fact that we coach coaches and consultants. I already know what's going to happen if they don't do X, Y, Z. So you know what we do? We help them do X, Y, Z so that none of that happens. So it's hard going through it, but on the other side of it, it's always been for a purpose and a much bigger one than I ever saw while I was doing it. I mean, think about it. By His grace, it's 2025 at the time of the recording. It's almost 2026. Our worst year in our coaching business in any of them was $400,000. It's our worst year ever. And I look at the statistics of how quickly, first year, 50% of business go out of business. By year 5, 80%. We at year 7. We're doing something right. By His grace, doing something right.
Right.
And so the beautiful part about God is that He graces us through our ignorance until we're exposed to the truth. Mm. Once you're exposed, and you don't do anything about it because you're being cheap and you're being scared to invest and you're being scared to get the help and all the things, now there's a consequence to that. It's just like a lukewarm believer, right? Like, that's why we can't be so judgmental to new believers, because their spiritual maturation hasn't caught up to yours yet, because they're just ignorant. They don't know. If they ain't being discipled properly, I can tell you firsthand, not being discipled properly, you think I love Jesus, I done got dipped in the water, I ain't going to hell, like that it kind of stopped with salvation. It's like, no, it started with salvation. If
Right.
you're not being discipled properly, you don't know that. And so one will look at it like, man, God hold me to this standard, but he let them get away with that. And it's like, he just know they ignorant to it. So he's not going to hold them accountable what they don't know. But at some point, he's going to create opportunity for them to know. And then by that exposure of that, they will be held accountable to what they do know. Same is true in business. That principle exists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's the way I look at it is, while yes, you can get a pass for being ignorant, but if you truly want to get the things that you put on that vision board of yours, with them cars and that money and that house and all the things, then you need to take the ownership of seeking out the things you're ignorant of, so that you can become the person sooner to do the thing that had the stuff.
That's good. And well, I'll end it with this question, because I know you touched on a few things that I'll highlight. To learn with no limit, because there's no limit to learn, and remain a student. I think that speaks big of your character, because one, you said your worst year was 400,000, which is it's a big number to a scarce mindset, right? So you say that, and somebody's probably like, 400,000 is little. Like I'd be set off of 400,000, but you know there's no limit to that. But I wanted to ask, what steps can a believer take today to, replace their ignorance with wisdom in their business? Because it's one thing to be aware that you're ignorant. It's another thing to replace that ignorance with wisdom. So what steps would you have someone take? You already highlighted a few, with learning limitlessly and remaining a student, and investing and seeking out the wise counsel. But is there any other steps that they can take practically today? So,
Yeah, number one, understand that AI chat is a tool, and the tool is only as good as the carpenter who hands that it's in. The tool is only as good as the carpenter whose hands that it's in. So what's happening is, because chat has infinite knowledge and you don't, then as long as chat gives you what seemingly is an intelligent answer, then you're going to take that and run with it. Why? Because you don't know no better. So chat will only be as effective as you are wise. It has knowledge, you need wisdom. So let's just start with that, because I think that's like the number one workaround for people now. Like, I'm just going to go to chat to coach me. Okay. You know what I mean? It will. To what level of success, I don't know, but it will coach you. It's programmed to do that. Secondly, be real honest with yourself about where you want to go. Not just flippantly saying stuff because that's what sound good. You want to be a millionaire that has an anatomy. You have to train your body to have the anatomy of millionaires, right? So that means that you have to do what they do. Well, we're talking about what they do. They identify their weaknesses. They invest in themselves. They find people that are further than them. They ditch people that suck the life out of them. They get away from rooms where they're always the smartest one in the room. Like, there's an anatomy to that. So then you need to follow that same framework if you want to also be successful. You won't be the one that's special to have all this dead weight with you and get to where you want to go. You won't stay there for long. That dead weight will pull you back. I don't care who it is, friends, family, it don't matter. If they not helping you get to where you're trying to go, then they're stopping you from getting where you're trying to go. Nothing stays in neutral. Okay. And then lastly, invest in yourself as much as you possibly can. And I'm not talking about learning for the sake of learning. I'm talking about understand that when God give you the provision to invest in yourself, no matter how it comes, whether you got to leverage money to do it, whether you got the cash in the bank, regardless of what the situation is, God made that provision. So what does that mean? Well, go back to the parable of the talents. He expects the ROI. So it's not just investing in yourself. Like, listen to me. I paid $55,000 for a specific coaching program in December of 2022. In the first 12 months, I made $800,000 just from that investment. Like, I don't know how to give somebody some money that God has given me, go and sit in that program and then not get a return on investment. Like, I don't even understand how to do that. Yet people do it every day. But I like bro, I'm not being like, my mind doesn't know how to do that. I don't really understand that. I'm going to come in here and do everything like you showed me. Why? Because one, I got to be able to hold you accountable. I got to be able to say I did everything to the T. And I don't mean maliciously, but like I ran the whole play exactly how you said it. That didn't work for me for some reason. Can we explore why that didn't work for me specifically? But if I'm not doing everything that you said, then how am I going to take you on a smear campaign and be like, man, that program sucked, they're a scammer, all the rest of it. So you got to do your part. It's a stewardship perspective. And so that'd be my three things. One, understand that chat is a tool, not a coach. Secondly, if you want to become a millionaire, you got to have the anatomy of one. And if you don't want to be a millionaire, that's okay too. If you like, I just want to make $50,000 a year outside of my job, like there's an avatar for that can show you how to do that. Like, go figure out what that is though, because if you aren't doing that, then you need to figure out what you need to do that. And then once you've done that, lastly, go invest in yourself. Stop. Investing in yourself is a form of self-love, because what it's really saying is, I know that if I had what I needed, I would become the person that I need to become. That's all it is. It ain't I gave somebody some money. It's saying I love me so much that I truly believe in my heart, man, if I could just fill this gap of what I'm missing, I'll have everything I want. Every time I make an investment in myself, I really believe that. The question is, do you?
Man, you answered all my questions, B. That was great. This is a great conversation. I think it's going to set a lot of people free, because it's time to stop living in ignorance. It's like, if what you've been doing isn't working and you don't like where you at, stop living in that ignorance, man. But I appreciate you for this conversation.
Of course.
It's on the mind. Appreciate it.
As always, if this blessed you, share this with a loved one, a friend, an associate, whomever. Comment and let us know. And if there's any topics that y'all would like for us to cover, don't hesitate. Until next time, folks.